At night, Highway 16 feels endless. There are no streetlights, no cell service, just trees pressing in from both sides, and the sound of your tires humming against the asphalt. If you pull over and shut off the engine, the silence is so complete, it feels like the road is holding its breath. This is where dozens of women disappeared. Some were found years later. Some were never found at all. And for decades, their absence barely slowed traffic. This is the Highway of Tears. Highway 16 stretches 719 kilometers across northern British Columbia, connecting Prince George to Prince Rupert. It passes through dense forests, remote towns, and indigenous communities that have existed on this land for generations. On paper, it is just a highway. In reality, it is one of the most disturbing crime corridors in Canadian history. Since 1969, women and girls, most of them Indigenous, have gone missing or been murdered along this route. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police officially linked 18 cases to the highway between 1969 and 2006. Indigenous leaders, families, and advocates say that number is far too low. They believe the real number is closer to 50, possibly more. Each one represents a person who should have come home. The stories follow a pattern. A woman leaves home to get to work, school, or a medical appointment. There is no bus, no affordable taxi, no safe transportation. Hitchhiking is common sometimes. It's the only option. She is last seen near the highway, then nothing. Days pass, weeks, sometimes years. In some cases, remains are eventually discovered off the road, deep in the bush, far from where she was last seen. In other cases, there is no body, no crime scene, no answers. Families describe the same moment over and over again. The phone call that never comes, the growing dread, the slow realization that something is terribly wrong. And then the wait begins. These women were daughters, sisters, mothers, friends. They were students trying to get to class, young women going to job interviews, mothers traveling to visit family, teenagers who believed they would be safe for just a few kilometers. Many were Indigenous, and that fact shaped what happened next. Families have spoken openly about how their loved ones were described in police files, labeled as high risk, transient, or runaways. Some were told to wait before filing missing persons reports. Others were told their daughters would come back on their own. Time that could have mattered was lost. And in missing persons cases, time is everything. For years, families raised the same concerns. Why were these cases not connected sooner? Why were tips ignored? Why were investigations slow or never completed at all? The answer many families came to was painful, but consistent: racism. Indigenous women were not treated as urgent. Their disappearances were normalized. Violence against them was framed as inevitable instead of preventable. This was not the failure of a single officer or a single department. It was systemic. It was embedded in how cases were prioritized, funded, and remembered. The highway itself became dangerous because no one intervened soon enough to make it safe. The geography of Highway 16 made it especially vulnerable. Long stretches without services, sparse traffic at night, limited police presence, entire communities cut off from reliable transportation. Predators understand patterns. They understand who is forced to hitchhike. They understand where no one is watching. They understand how long it takes for help to arrive, if it arrives at all. To this day, no one knows how many perpetrators used the highway, whether there was one serial offender, multiple offenders, or a combination of opportunistic violence. That uncertainty is part of the terror. In 1998, families and community members gathered in Terrace, British Columbia, for a vigil. Candles were lit, names were spoken, tears fell onto cold pavement. It was during that vigil that the road was given a name: the Highway of Tears, not by police, not by the media, by the families. The name spread because it told the truth. It captured the grief, the anger, and the exhaustion of communities that had been mourning in silence for decades. Eventually, the attention became impossible to ignore. Task forces were formed, reviews were ordered, public inquiries were launched, apologies were issued. Governments acknowledged that Indigenous women had been failed. But for many families, acknowledgement came far too late. Cases remained unsolved. Evidence was gone. Witnesses had aged or disappeared. What could have been prevented had already happened. Justice delayed had become justice denied. Today, memorials line portions of Highway 16. Crosses, red dresses, photographs protected by plastic against the rain. They are there to remind travelers that this road carries more than vehicles. It carries stories that were never finished. Families still visit these sites. They still search. They still wait. Because for them, the story has never ended. The Highway of Tears is not just a tragedy of violence. It is a tragedy of neglect, of indifference, of systems that looked away when they should have acted. It forces a question that Canada is still grappling with. How many warnings were ignored? How many lives were considered expendable? And how many women might still be alive if someone had acted sooner? The road is still there. The communities are still isolated. And the responsibility to remember and to change still remains. Because silence, when it lasts this long, becomes a crime its own.